You are listening to Eat Meat Sparingly, a Word of Wisdom podcast. I am your host, Ali Essig. All right, for today's podcast, we have a very special guest. Now, this is Amanda Wilkinson. She is my husband's cousin, and she has a very unique story. And while Amanda isn't exactly perfectly plant-based, she is very plant-forward. And what she is about to share with you can be applicable for so many people, especially if they've gone through something very difficult and have used food as a coping mechanism. I love what Amanda has to share, and I'm so excited for her to share her story with you today. So I will let her take it from here.
Thank you, Ali. I'm so excited to join you and to hopefully share something that will bring value to all of your lives, because even though maybe the recipes of what we've experienced may have some different ingredients, I find that sometimes the outcome or what we learn from them can be translated across many different situations. The two situations that I'm going to share with you in particular, we all have many different chapters of our life, but the two situations that I want to share with you for the purpose of this podcast today start 15 years ago. The first situation, I was a mother of 4 young children, ages 8 to my son was just getting ready to turn 2 years old. I was a busy mom of young children, just trying to keep my head above water and stay on top of things. And life was pretty routine. There was not anything unusual. We were just trying to get by day to day. And one night I put my 4 kids to bed, and the next morning we woke up and my baby, Bennett, who was just a few months shy of his 2nd birthday, he had passed away during the night in his sleep. No sickness, no health issues, and completely no warning whatsoever. And overnight, I was thrown into a level of grief and trauma and loss that I had no experience with and very little skills with, and not only feeling what I was feeling myself, but helping my family navigate the situation. And because of my lack of skills, and probably at the time also awareness of the numbing that I was using, I turned to food, and in my case, specifically sugar and caffeine, to help me through the day, to help me get out of bed, and to help keep me going for my children. And in a very short period of time, I ended up gaining about 60 pounds, and I was already not in an ideal place. And I got to the point where I wasn't sleeping because I was having PTSD attacks at night, and I couldn't rest because I was trying to make sure my other kids were sleeping. I was not eating mindfully. I was eating whatever was available and whatever would give me that quick rush to keep going and to keep showing up for my other kids. And what I found is over the next 6 to 12 months, my body spiraled downward, my mind spiraled downward, my mental and emotional state, including my own spiritual walk, also all deteriorated. And it took me years to get back to a place where I felt like I was somewhat healthy. Still not ideal, but somewhat healthy. So I want to fast forward, that was 15 years ago. I want to fast forward to 2018, which this year we're coming up on 8 years, about 7.5 to 8 years. My daughter had a life-altering injury at school. She was electrocuted in a classroom. And for the next 6 years, we fought for her life and traveled around the world and fixed everything that could be fixed, until we got to a point that what was left were not things that could be fixed anymore, and they were fatal and progressive. And so she ended up, at the age of 20, she ended up passing away at our home on hospice. So even though I currently have 2 headstones in the cemetery for my 2nd child and my 4th child, I have 3 children that are living, my experience with losing my daughter was so different in every way than the experience with my son, because my son's experience was completely unexpected, completely happened out of nowhere, but there was no suffering, there were no hard decisions to make. It was jolting, to be sure, but I couldn't see it coming. There wasn't any hint to it. Versus my daughter's situation, it was long and drawn out and painful loss. And during that time of being her caregiver, and many of you might be able to relate to this, when we are tasked with the option of taking care of people that we love, you better believe that we are going to give them the best care, the best nutrition, the best doctors, the best treatment. But during that time of me fighting for her life, what I didn't consider during that time was, what was I doing to refuel me? And many caregivers don't realize that there is much more of a risk of you burning out than even the patient, because you are the person that has all the information, that has all the relationships with the doctors, that remembers all the treatments. And during that time, I was so focused on saving my daughter that I was not putting that focus on me. So my daughter passed away in August of 2014. And what I found is that not only was I incredibly devastated, could not believe that I had lost a second child, but I found myself going into the doctor and getting back blood work. That was very disturbing.
And you said that was August 2024, right?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Did I say 14? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All the years. Yeah. So 2024. So we're a year and a half out. And what I found was that for me, this was not just about losing weight or fitting into a certain size of jeans, or I knew that my family had experienced so much grief and loss. But what was sitting before me was some results that put my own availability and my own health and the opportunity that I had to show up for my family at risk. And so at that point, I sat down with my doctor and I just said, I need to change things and I need to do something really dramatic, because my children have experienced so much loss. They cannot lose someone else in their lives. And I, of course, me and my husband were the mainstay for my family. And so what I started to do is I started to dive deep into all the physiological effects, grief, trauma, and loss. And I also had the rare insight of my own experience to be able to look back on, in hindsight, what did I do, giving the old version of myself all the love and grace that I could, because I did the best that I could from what I knew then. But in hindsight, what did I do that I wanted to do different this time? What did I see the pitfalls to be? When I noticed that as time went on after my son's death, I just spiraled downwards mentally, physically, emotionally, even spiritually with my own spiritual walk. And I was living on sugar and caffeine and using those as stimulants to get me through the day, just to get me out of bed to show up for my other 3 children. And so as I had already experienced profound grief and I had walked this walk this way, I decided to find out all the ways physiologically that grief and loss and trauma can affect you. And then I decided to create a plan to counteract those physiological effects of grief, trauma, and loss. Now, let me be clear. I am not talking about an easy button, because if you still go to the cemetery, I still have 2 headstones there. So I don't want to sugarcoat this, and anyone who's been through trauma or loss say, oh, I have something that will take it all away and will make it all easy. Unfortunately, that was not an option for me with all that we did for our children to try and save them. But I will tell you this, I'm a year and a half out now, and I am in the healthiest shape of my life. I went from scary numbers in different areas to optimal numbers. Even our life insurance went down by half because I am in the ideal range. And so I even have to pay less for life insurance. I am stronger. I lift 4 to 6 times a week, most of the time about 5 days. I eat clean, so it's like plant-based, but I do also eat some animal protein as well. But a large part of my diet does happen to do with grains and fruits and vegetables. And I just try and eat from the source as much as possible. And I changed my mindset from using fuel as a numbing mechanism to thinking of it as, how can I fuel my body to increase my bandwidth? And it's not going to happen overnight, but physiologically, there's so many ways that grief and loss and trauma affect your body. And how can I almost use my body as an experiment in the nutrition that I bring in? How can that gradually improve the way that I sleep? How can I improve my hydration with electrolytes? How can I put things going into my body that will help me feel more alive, that can help me get out of bed? that can help me not only show more patience and grace with myself and my husband, but my children, who were all going through our own lens of profound grief. And while this last year and a half has still been intense and hard and difficult, I can only say this after having one experience versus another. And the second with even way more trauma and way more drawn out and suffering and hard decisions. But I would say that a year and a half down the road now, I am at a place that it probably took me nearly a decade to get to after my son. And keep in mind, in both situations, my children passed away. But I got to a point after Bennett that for me, I was up to 260 pounds and had so many health concerns and so many issues. And now I'm 49 this year. I'm 15 years older. And now I'm between like 130 pounds. I work out 5 to 6, like 130 to 135. I just kind of stay within that limit. And I work out 5 to 6 days a week. And even today, we were visiting them here on the East Coast. And my daughter and I walked around Washington, D.C. all day long, like literally all day long. And my legs are not tired. I'm energized. I'm not sore. And my daughter even said to me when we were walking around town today, she said, "Mom, I think a year ago, we wouldn't have been able to do this." And I just looked at her and I was so grateful that for my daughter that's here, that I can continue to show up for her and live with her. And that I am able to honor my children that have passed away by not letting their legacy be the destruction of their mother.
And so you said this is not the easy button, right?
No.
So how did you do it? I mean, because you're going through so much grief, the last thing you want to do is think about what you're eating or go to the gym. And how did you then find that healing? Like it almost flips, right? Then you see how much it helps you and the endorphins, all these things. But in the beginning, when it was hard, how did you do it?
So I actually had a friend who, right after losing a son to stillbirth and a mother who died in her sleep unexpectedly, she ended up working with a trainer that taught basically like progressive
overload
weightlifting, and that also taught her to eat clean. And what I have found, and maybe what a lot of your listeners have found, I think most women are undernourished and under eating.
Yeah.
I know that when I started to track my macros, and for me, I counted my macros, and when I started counting my macros, I was amazed how little nutrition I was getting. And it started to make sense of why I had no energy, why I was having a hard time sleeping, why I felt so lethargic, why I found myself snapping at people at different times. And it's because I was not giving my body what it needed to live optimally. And so when I started to have that awareness, and when I started to look at food as opportunities to put gas in my body, to increase my bandwidth, to help with my mood management, to help with my sleep, it completely changed the way that I looked at fueling. And it also really helped to bring someone in, knowing that this had been a problem for me in the past, bringing someone in like Ali would be, right? Who knows what they're doing. This is their specialty. And if you know that you need to do something, but that you know that if you had that information, you might have probably already done it. Or maybe you just need the accountability piece. Hiring this trainer who gave me nutritional advice and then who also gave me workouts to do, and then I would check in with her on Marco Polo every day. For me, some days that was the only thing that would get me out of the house. And sometimes for many months, all I would do is go to the gym and work out and then come home and then shower and then put my pajamas back on because I didn't want to see anyone. I didn't want to talk to anyone. But getting in these habits, pretty soon I started to feel a change in the endorphins that I was feeling and the way that that would help me feel. And pretty soon I started to realize that for the first time in years, I was able to sleep through the night because I was up all of the time doing my daughter's medication through her central line. And so it was just bit by bit by bit. And it was not all of a sudden. I would say the first thing was that I just noticed that I started feeling a difference in my body, feeling more nutrition. And then I just started with walking. I didn't even start going to the gym. And I noticed it was good to feel the sun on my face. And then I noticed I felt better when I stayed hydrated. And then I noticed, so it was bit by bit by bit. But I think you mentioned something the other day that so many people overestimate what they can do in a year, but they underestimate what they can do in 5. I would say the same thing for health and nutrition. My previous way of getting fit or getting in the right, like the pair of jeans that I wanted or whatever, had to do with, okay, how quick can we do this? How quick? Okay, I want to lose 30 pounds. I want to do it in 3 months. I want to do 10 pounds a month. Okay, you tell me the fast plan. And when I talked to this trainer for the first time, she said, Amanda, I think that this is probably going to take us a year. And I looked at her and I was like, don't you have like a faster
That's a good trainer.
path?
That's a good trainer who can manage those expectations.
Yes.
Because everyone wants it so fast.
I know. I was like, how about 6 months? Like 6 months. And she goes, no, this is going to take, because she said, we are changing the way that your whole body's built. We are changing, like you are building muscle, you are building strength, you are building. And so at first I just thought this is going to take forever. But can I tell you what? That year went by anyways. And I could have never imagined, even my original goal that I set for myself, I way exceeded, because I didn't know that once I was giving myself the hydration and nutrition and the sleep and the steps and the sunlight and eating as many real foods as possible, I had no idea, let alone with the weight lift, how my body would respond. And here I am, this year I turned 50, and I'm in the best shape of my life after having the most traumatic experiences of my life. And so those are the two comparisons that I have. I would say my overall message, Ali, from that is many of us have experiences or situations in our life that we did not choose.
Yeah.
We cannot control, and maybe after all of our best effort, we are left with a consequence or an outcome that couldn't be farther from what we work for. But what I have learned is that in these circumstances, in our family, we talk a lot about driving past a field that has all this manure all over it. And if you just pass by the field, you might just smell all of the crap. Let's just say that. Just all the crap all over, and you might just smell the stench of the manure. But if you look at it from a different perspective, that ground is fertile soil to grow something, to grow whatever you want to grow. So what seeds are you going to plant in that ground? Because in some of the crappiest situations, you are going to have fertile soil for growth, but you get to decide what to do with that soil and with that space and what you want to put in your bit of earth and what you want to grow. And I had 2 tragic situations, 2 situations that were completely beyond my control, that I did everything that I could. But what I did when I had the same outcome was completely different. And where it started here, similarly, it ended up taking me to a totally different place. And while it hasn't brought my children back, it has changed the way that I move through it, and therefore the way that I show up, not only for myself in healing, but that I can walk my family through their healing, grief, and loss.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And where do you feel like going to the gym, eating these healthy foods, like it's just a simple comparison from your first loss to the second loss, a year and a half out? Like, how does it feel? What's the difference? Because it's hard both ways. It's hard to go to the gym.
True.
It's hard to choose healthy foods. It's hard to turn down some of the crap. It's hard both ways. And, what's the difference in results for you? Just how you felt? Like, obviously there's the weight loss, but how you felt, how you slept, what does that look like?
Well, for me, in both circumstances, I was not at a place to make all these elaborate meals. And so the first time, the way that I dealt with it is I would go through drive-through a lot, or I would just have a lot of caffeine a lot, or I would also just have a lot of sugar a lot. I remember my kids would go to school, and after Bennett passed away, he had a little brother that was just a year older than him that could not wrap his head around the fact that his brother had passed away, didn't understand what that meant. So he kept asking me over and over and over again, when's Bennett coming back? Mom, when's he coming back? And I was so overcome with grief, and I didn't know how to explain to this 3-year-old that his brother was not coming back. That I would drop my girls off at school, and then I would go to a place called Cutler. You remember this?
Like they have the best cookies.
Yes, and I would get a Dr. Pepper, full calories, full sugar, and I would get a sugar cookie, and then I would come back home. But that sugar and that caffeine, I would count on that to get me through until lunch, because he wanted me to play cards with him all morning until his brother came home. And so this was just like a routine that I had. And so what's that doing? That's spiking my blood sugar. But I didn't feel like I had the bandwidth, nor did I have the appetite to like put a meal together. So because I knew that after grief and loss, for me particularly, I have a hard time with appetite. I have a hard time getting out of bed. What I did this time, I knew I wouldn't be doing elaborate meals. I knew I wouldn't be doing all these things. So what I started to do is I started to use a few days a week where I would just prep things in my fridge. So I would cut up a bunch of vegetables, cut up a bunch of fruits, cut up, like for me, saute some lean meat or saute some different things. And I would have it in the fridge or do some multi-grain rice so that in a moment where I'm like, okay, I need to fuel myself, I need to eat, I didn't have to even think about what I needed to do. I had some things prepped there that I could put 3 or 4 or 5 different meals together really quickly with just mixing a different combination of things. And for me, it almost took away the what should I have, because I just had some things there. I didn't even have to think about a meal, but I wasn't going through a drive-through. I was sourcing it. It was less expensive, but it was fuel for my body that actually helped serve my body by putting nutrition in my body. And in time, it's taken some time. My appetite still isn't fully back, but my body craves healthy whole foods. And I feel a difference. We were talking just the other day about once you start eating more clean, it's not that I never eat things that aren't clean, because of course we travel, of course we try things, and your body becomes more sensitive and it lets you know when you're like, wow, I'm kind of feeling crappy after that, and like my stomach kind of hurts. And so your body adapts to that, and it's used to getting that fuel and used to getting that support, and it makes all the difference in the way that you show up. So either way, just like you said, either way is hard. Either way takes planning. But if you know, realistically, I'm not going to be doing all these extensive meals, I'm not going to be doing this, then maybe focus on, with the way that I want to eat, what are some things that I can do to prep that I can throw together very easily and just have some ingredients that are already maybe prepped in the fridge from Costco or wherever you go, or Whole Foods. And then what can I do just to prep, like maybe twice a week or 3 times a week, so I have things on hand, and that I also have things that I can grab and go, so that when I'm out and about with my kids or running errands and I get to the point where it's going a little bit longer than I thought, that I just don't get in a situation where I'm like, I don't have something or I'm starving. I also think that it's realistic and it's a good idea for you to find out, if you are out and about, if you do need to stop and get something to eat, because this is life, and you have to do this in a way that's maintainable. What are 5 places that you can go and stop and get things that will help you feel good and fuel you, but won't totally take you off of the way that you want to feel? Because I think that once you're empowered by that information, that you don't get in a situation where it's not like, I'll start again on Monday, or it just becomes this continual thing, because you know, everywhere you go, you know what kind of things to look for, you know what's going to work for you, you know. And so that's when it becomes not a diet, it becomes a lifestyle and a way of thinking, and it becomes the new way that you live, because it's doable, it's maintainable, it's livable. And I think that is the difference between a diet or losing weight and literally changing the composition of your body and completely changing your health.
It's so true. It's so true. And you also mentioned with your trainer, progressive overload. And I love talking about this with women, because I feel like I also love group fitness classes. I think they're so great, but there's something so empowering when you are keeping track of how much you're lifting and then seeing yourself get stronger.
Yes.
Because you don't always see the muscles, you know what I mean? But if you can see, oh my gosh, I'm keeping track, and I used to only be able to do 15 pounds on a bicep curl. Now I can do 20. Like, that's amazing.
Yes.
And just how empowering that can be, especially for those non-scale victories. Sometimes we're just focused on the number on the scale or the pants or all those things, but then to see yourself get stronger, to see that, no, they're like, I am improving. And I think that's so important to really look into, not just going lifting or taking group fitness classes, but keeping track of how much you lift and trying to improve it by 1 rep or a little bit of weight over time. This is what we teach in our membership. And I think it's so empowering. Like, it really is such a great thing to encourage women to do. And not enough women lift. Like, we're in the weight room, there's no one there. It's like for every, I think, 1 girl, there's 27 men. Like, it's definitely where we can improve on for sure. But you can even just do it with dumbbells in your home. It doesn't have to be complicated either.
And I love that you said that, because I think the formula for what works for everyone, I think this is part of the success. I think for some people, they find out, do you know what? I work out better at home. I work out better when all my things are here. I had times where I had exercise equipment in my home and they would go unused. Because I have ADHD, I was diagnosed as an adult later on in life. I find that at home, I keep having interruptions. I keep getting distracted. So for me, I have found that going to the gym is kind of my, okay, this is what I'm doing. And I just kind of go into the mindset. I go into the mold. I mean, just like my mind goes there. I focus. I'm not distracted by, oh, I need to put a load of dishes in, or, oh, I need to go get the mail. That's what I'm focused on. And so finding what works for you realistically, if you're going to change your life and be dedicated to this for the long term, this is not 3 months. This isn't until you get to a certain weight. This is changing the way that you feel and the way that you show up. And especially for us women, protecting our bones and building muscle. And that helps us against future falls, against injuries, against disease, even against Alzheimer's, right? And so all these things, especially as you get older, are so imperative, but you need to create a plan that's going to work for you and the way that you live. And I think that once you become honest about that and real about that with yourself, finding something that works for you is part of finding something that you will stick to long term.
And I think even the money too, my husband makes fun of me because I have 2 gym passes. And I'm like, look, one gym pass is open 24 hours. And it's so that on Saturday nights for a date, we can go. And I'm like, that's $25 a month. We would spend how much going out to dinner?
More than that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, this is totally worth it for me that we can go. You're my guest. We can go and do that activity. Like sometimes we have in our mind, like it's too expensive, but yet we'll easily spend that on food. When we go out to eat, you'll go through the drive-thru, like not even think about it. And so, and I always tell this with women too, like especially with our kids, if your child was like, hey mom, I want to get better at soccer, you'd be like, okay, I'll sign you up for soccer. I just signed up my kids for soccer, 5 of them, $800. For just the spring season. And we don't think twice about it in that sense where it's like, well, that's what we should do. But then a woman to pay $800 for herself to improve her own health, they're like, no, that's way too much. Like we don't prioritize the fact that you got a trainer, the fact that you were held accountable. Like sometimes we need that. Like we're willing to give our children a coach, but can we give ourselves one? If we want to improve, you know? Yeah.
Changing.
And sometimes I always say this too, like if you could do it on your own, you would have already.
Yep.
If you could do it on your own, you would have already. And it's okay. And in fact, it's wonderful to invest in something that will help you get to that next level, or just give you support, just to be there for you, to have someone that, like, especially after grief and going through trauma, to have that accountability, it's a game changer.
And I think it's also important to give yourself permission that perhaps the best time to do something is the least convenient time to do it, because there's so many people, and I have been one of those people that have said, I really can't do that right now. Life's kind of crazy, or things are kind of intense right now. But what if the best time to do something is the time when you need the most support? And there were some people in my life that I started working with the trainer. My daughter passed away in August. We had her funeral towards the end of August. I started working with the trainer in September.
Wow.
Like we were not even a month and a half out from her death. And I'm sure that some people thought, she's crazy. What is she doing? I mean, she just buried her daughter. But I'm telling you, coming out of an experience that I had given everything to try and save this daughter, and it didn't end up shaking out the way that we wanted, it was imperative that I work on something that was more formulaic than the experience that I was in, and that I had something every day that I could do that was within my control. And I'm not saying, there was a lot of things that had to shift over that year. There's learning and growing and all these things that you find that work for you and don't work for you and just whatever. But for me, it was wonderful while I was in this profound grief to have other areas of my life where I was growing and progressing and learning and getting stronger and getting leaner and having better sleep and having more energy. And after that first year of her loss, it was incredible to have that year be so intense, but to also have so many beautiful things happen in that year. And so if you're in a situation where you're like, I know my health is not optimal, my mental health is not optimal, I know that my hormones are crazy, I know that I don't feel strong, I know that my capacity is diminished and not where I want it to be, but I have this and this and this and this and this. Maybe think to yourself, if I was willing to put my overall wellness first as a priority, how would that serve me in every area that I show up? And also, how would that serve my family? Because I'll tell you what else I learned. When mama goes first, the family ends up following. Because I just would going on my own, but it changed the way that we shop, changed the food we had in our fridge. And guess what? Now my family, my daughter goes with me every day. My husband and my other son go at night. My other son does his thing. We're all eating the same foods. And things have changed because guess what? Mama went first, and now that's becoming the new normal. And so mamas, while it's not our job to force our family to do anything, you may be surprised that when you just go about doing things that you know are good and healthy for you, and when they see it changing your life and the way that you show up, and when they sense the way that it's shifting things for you, you might be surprised to notice the habits that are changing with other people in your home. It doesn't happen overnight. And with my daughter, it took forever. And I was like, I think I want it more for you than you do. And yet now she's fully committed and fully in, but I had to go first. And so maybe think instead of using your current circumstances as a excuse to not do something, maybe give yourself permission that perhaps this is the time where you deserve the most nurturing and love.
Oh, so true. It's so true. And I can't tell you how many clients I have sometimes are like, okay, I'm doing this, but my husband needs to do this. And, and I'm like, ignore your husband for now. Like he will change when he sees the change in you first. Focus on you first.
Absolutely true.
Seriously.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's so powerful. Well, this has been so inspirational. I'm so grateful to have you here. I'm moving this week. It's been chaotic. That's why we're sitting on the floor right now. And speaking of not fueling yourself, I'm moving all these boxes and I just couldn't get food, and I was just so exhausted and tired. And as soon as I sat down and ate, I was like, oh, now I have energy. This is amazing.
All of a sudden I'm feeling better about this move.
I know. It's amazing what fueling yourself can do. Just a ton of blueberries. We had anyway, it's so important. And so I cannot just emphasize this enough in any type of stress, even if you haven't gone through the type of trauma that Amanda's gone through, any difficult thing. And the last thing I want to talk about too is how you've mentioned that grief and joy can exist together, and how you found that. I feel like as I'm saying goodbye to this home that I've lived in for 14 years, just the grief of that, but also the joy and excitement of moving on to the next chapter. But just recognizing that these two can be held together, and when you prioritize your health, you can move through both of those even better, even more fully, I guess you can say.
She's absolutely right. And I think that it's important to realize that when we talk about grief and loss, but when we also talk about peace and joy and fulfillment and restorative rest, those are not only an emotional or psychological thing, that is a physiological. We are all walking chemistry experiments, right? And so when you are putting things into your body that can literally manage your emotions and help the way you process things, you're actually taking it's not the easy button, but it's actually giving you a route that makes the path that you're going through a little bit more navigatable, and that helps in the way that you move through it. And so I think that that's really important to learn, that as we take care of ourselves, we can actually add to the peace and the joy and the calm and the patience and the grace we give others and the grace we give ourselves when we properly nourish and take care of ourselves and give ourselves adequate rest and sunshine and movement. All those things change the hope that we feel, change the joy that we feel, change the possibilities that we feel. We still feel the grief, we still feel the loss, we still feel the sadness. It doesn't take it away, but it helps you balance out those feelings and give you more of a harmonized view of the possibilities ahead and the possibility that just maybe some of your best days may even be ahead of you.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Thank you for listening to Eat Meat Sparingly, a Word of Wisdom podcast. I'm your host, Ali Essig. And if you need more help and support with transitioning to eating more plants so you can lose weight and improve your gut health and just reduce your risk of chronic disease, then make sure to check out my PlantWise membership. That's PlantWhys, because I like to teach the why behind eating more plants. But if all you need is just a couple more delicious recipes that feed your family and everyone loves, and not to mention super simple and easy, then make sure to check out my YouTube channel, which is also PlantWise, PlantWhys. Hope to see you there.